the winemaker, founder of Kilikanoon, and we're just sitting here in our barrel shed at Kilikanoon with my father, Mort Mitchell, the one and only. So basically, I just want to talk a bit about the brand Kilikanoon, where it all started. Dad, you came to Clare back in 1948. So, at what age were you when you and your father planted your first vineyards?
Probably around about 21 when we put the first feedlots in, 21, 22 in there somewhere.
Okay. So obviously the Mitchells have a long history of grape growing in the Clare Valley, but not as long as my mother's family, the Duke side of the family. And Mum's side were very much into orchards. They're orchardists and beekeepers, and they were also based in Penwitham. Back then the Clare was a real source area for fruit and vegetables for the Adelaide market. I guess there's a lot of guys probably back in the 60s and 70s when orchards sort of fell away, they got into vineyards as well. So for me, really part of my DNA, I guess, is viticulture, grape growing and winemaking. I guess as a young guy, I went to university, didn't really know what I was going to be honest. I did an ag science degree, and I guess whilst at Rosalie College, Adelaide Uni, really became interested in wine. There was a wine course that were run in parallel with agricultural science, and for me, I really gravitated towards wine. Having a background in viticulture, having a winemaking family. Dad's younger brother's a winemaker. I guess that resonated a lot, and I started to work and move more in the social circles of winemakers, and basically finished the ag science, remained at university and studied enology, finishing back in the early 90s. So from there, got experience here and there, working for other companies, overseas for a bit, but I guess there was always this longing that I had to return to Clare, to my roots if you like, and probably establish a small brand, a boutique brand of my own, that I could really build on through buying vineyards, obviously perhaps to work with Dad again, and basically back in 1997 the brand Kilikanoon was born, and based on two vineyards, one that I bought a year or two earlier, and one that Dad had for probably since the early 70s, I guess.
That would be correct, yeah.
Early 70s.
Yeah.
So those two vineyards, I guess, provided the cornerstone for the Kilikanoon brand. And from there, I remember our first vintage very well, back in 1997, and in that portfolio we had four wines, a very noble quartet: Riesling, Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz, and Grenache. And to this very day, those wines are still made in our Kilikanoon portfolio, so they've come the whole journey with us, which has been great. A bit about the name Kilikanoon. Kilikanoon, for me, returning to Clare one weekend, in fact, in 1997, there was a property for sale in the Skilliglee Valley, in fact, called Kilikanoon. Basically, it's a very old stone hut, or if you like, a settler's cottage, built back in the 1860s, and it had been named Kilikanoon after basically some Cornish immigrants that had come over and named it after an estate in Cornwall. So really, historically, the property from whence the name came goes back a long, long way. Clare was founded back in 1839, so this cottage was built really only a few years after the settlement of Clare. The earliest days of the Kilikanoon story, the brand has really been driven by this desire, I guess my desire, to work with fruit that's been grown a certain way. Drawing on my father's, on what he does and what he's proud to do and what he does to this day. His idea of grape growing is very timeless, it's traditional, and everything is done the old-fashioned way. There are no shortcuts. It's hand pruned, it's hand picked. Every vine is a blank canvas. Every vine's got to pull its weight, and I think for us at Kilikanoon, the brand is built on that philosophy. The wines are essentially they're handmade. They reflect the uniqueness of the terroir where they came. And as the brand has grown to be a lot larger than it was in the early days, we haven't lost sight of that. And really, the wines still connect strongly with single vineyards from the Clare Valley. The provenance of the brand is very profound. And I think that goes back to what I learned from my father. that these things are timeless, they take time to get right, and our winemaking today is exactly the same. We don't take any shortcuts. Our winemaking methodology is the same. It's done on very traditional lines, basket pressing, individual batches kept to the very end, branded barrels, all those things we've used, I think, to our advantage in really keeping things very, very, if you like, very honest, very truthful, and really having that providential line to where the brand really began. Yeah, and that gives me as a winemaker some wonderful material to work with. Lovely old vines, tended beautifully by my father and guys that have come after him. And but what's, I guess, most exciting is that he's still there today, still doing it, and he's still working for us, still pruning, still, if you like, giving guidance to to what we really need to keep in focus with within Kilikanoon itself. And I think one of the strengths of Kilikanoon as a brand has been the fact that we're based in the Clare Valley. And the Clare Valley for me is a wonderful canvas to work with. And what makes Clare so special is that it's diversity. It's despite being a very small region, the area varies a lot over a very small distance. And for that reason, Clare is just so wonderful for doing everything from Riesling to Shiraz to Cabernet. It does so many things so well. And that's because of the topography. The valley is very rising, very undulating. It's got areas that are cooler, areas that are warmer, north-facing, south-facing. The soil types here are very, very conducive to viticulture. A lot of the valley is that real terra rossa soil, which we hear a lot about. Terra rossa is basically a duplex soil. We've got this wonderful, rich red loam, topsoil over a lovely limestone base. And back in the old days, before irrigation was part of the process, those soil profiles allowed vines to recharge their roots during winter time. And if the summer was dry, they would be allowed to kick on because the limestone is a great source of moisture, and the vines can draw through that over the summer months. And really, until probably 25 years ago, nearly all the vines in Clare were dry grown. And even to this day, in Kilikanoon, in our portfolio of vineyards, with many old vineyards, and they're virtually nearly all dry grown. And because of their history, because of their growth habit, the way they've exploited the soil, they continue to perform every year, year in, year out. I mentioned earlier about we have 4 wines which we make to this very day. Well, we've broadened our portfolio significantly. But what we haven't lost sight of is we've really kept our focus on single vineyard wines. And many of these wines are based on very old vineyards, where the terroir is very unique and very distinctive. And one comes to mind is one of our flagship wines called the Atunga. The Atunga is basically a very small cuvee made from a vineyard near Auburn that goes back to 1865. So that's an amazing thing. And what's special about that is that in South Australia, particularly in the Clare Valley, we never had phylloxera. So whereas the old world was decimated by phylloxera 150 years ago, many vineyards in South Australia never had that. So we've had that. We've been able to keep those vineyards alive, to keep managing them, to keep culturally improving them, and one of those ends up in a wine called the Atunga, and for that's a marvellous part of our portfolio.